Hey, how about a nice Hawaiian punch?
Sure.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3. 3. How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
You're listening to Slightly Uncomfortable. Are you ready?
Well, welcome to Slightly Uncomfortable. We have a skeleton crew, if you will.
We do.
We were supposed to have three seats filled tonight, and Root, our beloved Root, he came down with a case of being a pussy.
He did.
Because he messaged us and said, "But guys, I have a cold."
Yeah, a cold.
A cold. So he's home sniffling.
Would a cold have stopped Thomas Jefferson?
I don't think it would have.
Benjamin Franklin?
No.
A cold? No. I'm out there in the thunderstorm with my key and my kite.
And
I've got the full-blown flu.
You know what? Root may be able to wear a T-shirt that says Thomas Jefferson, but he can't be Thomas Jefferson because a cold keeps him in.
Keeps him in. I had a cold. I had to stay home.
And then, of course, we have the wayward Alex.
Well, I'm sure he had some sort of scarf accident.
Well, he said he was out for the weekend, and that also includes Monday.
Yes, right,
is what he said.
It's a long weekend.
It's a long weekend for Alex. Every day's a weekend for Alex. So it's just Lloyd and I.
Yes.
Down here in the bunker, holiday weekend. This is a special Monday edition.
Special Monday edition. Yes, we usually don't record on Mondays.
We don't. We don't have any consistency though when we record.
No, that's true.
So we don't know if this is going to be a big show or a three bourbons in, but we're going to did the slightly uncomfortable part, and then we're going to go welcome to three bourbons in.
Yes, welcome.
So that way we can go any way that we want to.
There
right?
we go.
So
we're flexible that way.
See, Root was supposed to also be the producer.
He has many hats in this operation.
And he is wearing none of them right now.
Because he has the sniffles.
He has the sniffles. He has post-nasal drip or something. So he left us to just come up with something.
Just high and dry. No, we already had plans for what we were going to record today.
Yeah, and he was going to be the producer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I'm the producer, Root doesn't do a damn bit of show prep.
No.
So I was going to kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and here comes Root's going, I'm having a hard time breathing.
He's supposed to be our big toe, but he's gone.
I have the sniffles. My name is Root.
We're having way too much fun with this.
Well, anybody know. The only reason I never miss a show is I know if I miss a show, I'm everybody's bitch.
Well,
if you miss a show, you're going to be the one that we make fun of.
Well, it's not just that. It's like we have to come to your place to record.
That is true. But you all do have keys.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, except for Root, and he doesn't need keys because he's crafty that way.
Well, I believe that I'm a really good friend, but
maybe not as good as others.
Maybe not.
But still, you're in the top 12.
There you go.
With some people.
Some random people that we will discuss.
But I appreciate Lloyd coming up today to share his holiday weekend, and we have decided to do a show on television.
Yes, television.
On the TV.
The old TV.
Yeah, on TV. And Lloyd has said when I came up with this topic that he really doesn't watch a lot of TV anymore.
Right. Especially not network TV.
Yeah.
It's all garbage.
Yeah, I would have completely agree with that. But in typical slightly uncomfortable fashion, we're going to go back to when we were kids.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what television has been in the last 50 years for us.
Right.
What type of impact it's had on our lives, things that we remember about it, both good, bad, and different. Mm-hmm. Firsts that we were encountered that may never happen any again.
Right. Have a lot of childhood memories about watching TV shows.
Right. So let's go on and get started with Lloyd. Tell me about your first memory of watching television. Where was it? How old were you?
Well, probably the first I remember is I was probably 3 or 4, and we got 3 channels where I lived. Lived out in the country outside of the city, so there was no cable. Of course, I guess in the early 70s there wasn't a lot of places with cable. So we got 3 channels on the antenna, one of which was Kentucky Educational Television. So
KET.
KET.
You know me.
And that's.
Are you down with KET? Well, you know me.
And it started, I think, 1 year before I was born. So my sister and I were kind of right in the thick of when that started being big and started being broadcast statewide.
Was there a show that you remember from KET?
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street were the 2 that we watched. And we were very young, of course.
Good.
But, I'm sure that shaped our childhood a lot. And like I say, we got 2, maybe 3 channels. So, it's not like today where you've got all the choices in the world.
Which, yeah, we're going to get into today's choices now and what TV's evolved to. But like you, I lived out in the country when I was some of my first memories of television. And we had the antenna as well. We had the big 60-foot antenna, and we had the rotary.
Did you have the electric rotor?
We had the electric one where
you
could kind of dial it in. We were fancy.
He was rich, apparently.
That's right. We were loaded, because we had the 60-foot antenna.
Yeah, I can remember going outside to turn the antenna, and my sister would be at the door waiting to relay to my dad, turn it until you get the best picture.
Yep.
You had to relay the message back as to whether it was tuning in correctly.
Right.
That's where we started.
Right, yeah. So I also remember the tin foil on the rabbit ears on the back of the black and white Zenith that we had. So that was really early on. And like Lloyd, now Lloyd and I grew up in different parts of Kentucky. I was more in central Kentucky, and Lloyd was what, South Central?
South Central Kentucky.
South Central.
Yeah.
We had 3 channels here, and we got our channels then. As I lived in Lawrenceburg, we got our channels from Louisville. So we got WDRB channel 41.
Okay.
And we got channel 19 out of Cincinnati. And I think we may have gotten KET as well.
Right.
Because KET back then was what the TBN is now. The religious channel. You can pick it up in third world countries.
Right. And I'm sure that was probably one of the first things in Kentucky first efforts to build a statewide network.
Right.
So that, even people in the mountains of Kentucky could probably get a KT station.
Right. And so 3 channels, big old antenna. Yep. The one channel, or the one show, the 2 things I remember, the 2 shows I remember, is Bozo the Clown.
Okay. All right.
Bozo the Clown was the clown that was local to, if I'm not mistaken, Louisville.
Okay.
And, of course, I also remember what was the show that had Captain Kangaroo?
Captain Kangaroo, yes.
And had Mr. Green Jeans, which, in hindsight, I believe Mr. Green Jeans was homosexual.
Well,
because you don't wear green jeans. You don't.
It's just not allowed.
I don't even know where you buy those.
And another as an aside, going back to the early TV that we watched, my first TV that I remember was a TV that my dad actually built. There was a company called Heathkit that a lot of people that had electronic knowledge would buy, radios, televisions, things like that, and you would actually build them. And my dad actually built the first TV that we had. It was a color TV, and he actually built it. If you look up that company, for many years they did lots of.
You think they still do it?
No, I think they're out of business, but they would do like ham radios, regular radios, televisions, any sort of electronics like that, and it came in a kit, and you basically built it.
That is extremely cool.
Yeah. So he actually built our first TV.
Well, the first TV I remember was from a company named Zenith, and I had a 13-inch black and white in my bedroom, and I was high on the hog, and remember when you had to tune in between the stations to tune it in to where it was clearer?
Oh, yeah. You had VHF and UHF, so kids today don't know what that is.
No.
And even if you turned to the channel number that you wanted, you still had to use that outer ring and fine-tune that station in.
And if you left the TV on when you went to sleep, then you would get the colored screen.
Yes.
Not the colored screen, but first you'd hear the anthem, the national anthem.
Yeah, the
would
color
close out.
bars. The color bars.
Yeah. You'd hear the national anthem, and then it would just be color bars. And that would sometimes happen at midnight.
Oh yeah, I think KET at the time pretty much went off at dark.
Well, but KET has banker's hours.
Right.
They still
right.
do.
But there were no 24-hour channels. I don't
No.
believe. None at
I mean,
all.
I think that most of them went off after Johnny Carson, so that
Yeah.
would have been probably 12:30. Maybe 1 o'clock was when most stations went off the air.
Well, you're talking about the old Zenith TV. I think the TV that I remember that seemed like everyone had. I don't know. Maybe it was sold by Sears, and that's where everybody had it. But it was an RCA 19-inch TV.
19-inch.
19-inch.
Was it the console TV? Had to be a console TV.
It was
back
a
then.
it was a console.
For you youngins listening to us, a console TV was a piece of furniture.
It was furniture.
Yeah, it was a TV housed within a piece of furniture.
It was, yes.
And it's not uncommon to have had a console TV and it break, and then you buy another TV and put the TV on top of the console TV.
Right.
Use it as a TV stand.
It was basically the first TV stand.
It was.
Yeah.
And not a great look.
No,
You're not going to find that at the Pottery Barn or anything like that. You know, places that are steeped in interior tradition.
No.
But that absolutely was what I saw many times as a kid.
And occasionally you will still find those basically for free. People will be giving those away. And, you know, it's just like some of the other furniture we have that weighs like 5,000 pounds. Nobody wants it because they don't want to actually move it.
Well, and plus, back then, TVs were very expensive,
Yes.
you know, for the family to buy.
Yes.
And if it broke, you didn't throw it away like you do now.
No.
You had a TV repairman come out.
That's right. That was a big industry.
Yes. And now you can't find anybody to work on the TVs
No.
that we have now. It's just a throwaway commodity.
No, if you have a 2-year-old flat screen TV and something goes wrong with it, they will just basically, we will tell you if it's under warranty, we'll just send you another one. We don't even want the old one back.
Right. Because they ain't got it doesn't cost that much for them to build them anymore.
And every household that had a TV had a TV. There were no multiple TVs.
No. Now I was lucky because I was an only child, and I got a TV in my room relatively young.
Okay.
And I think I always had a television in my room. Partly, I believe, because I was an only child. Also, it got me out of my mom and dad's hair, you know, that I could have a TV in my room. So I was very fortunate.
Right.
Even though coming from a blue-collar, one-income family, they found a way to get me, you know, TVs and stuff like that. I never wanted for anything. So, Doug, tell me other than the Sesame Street and stuff like that, were there television shows when you were a kid that your mom and dad wanted to make sure, because back then, as many of you know, and some of you may not, if you had a TV show, life would shut down during the time that TV show was on, because there was no way to ever see it again.
No.
If you missed that episode, there was no YouTube,
No.
there was nothing like that. So you had to sit down, and life had, if the phone rang, fuck it.
Yep.
You know, if the doorbell rang, fuck it. If you miss a moment, you missed it.
If you missed it on live TV, you have missed it. There were no VCRs at the time. You had no way to watch it again, and I doubt they had too many reruns either. I mean, it was pretty much
You know,
one
I
shot
don't
at that
remember
point.
if there was like a rerun season the way it is now. In the wintertime, it was. I don't know. I don't remember that.
Right.
Because as a kid, you can watch stuff over and over and over again. I never tire of it.
And you know, the early TVs, probably a little bit before our time. One of the tragedies is that they reused the tapes. You know, I'm sure the tapes that they recorded TV shows on were expensive. So at some point, the studios just started recording over the old recordings, and basically they're lost to history. They're unable to be recovered because they're just gone. They've been recorded over because nobody thought, oh, someone 50, 75 years from now is going to want to go back and watch this. We're just going to record over. It's just a recording.
Right. You know what I'm doing? I'm drinking bourbon.
Drinking bourbon, drinking scotch, drinking beer.
No. At this house, you don't drink scotch.
Oh, okay.
At this house, every once in a while we'll have a beer.
Scotchy.
But, you know, again, we had the ladies here
Yes,
last week.
yes.
And we want to kind of take a moment to thank Janet and Heather for being our first ever ladies on Slightly Uncomfortable.
And they did an awesome job.
You know, I was fortunate enough to be the host on that show. And so the other guys actually listened to the show as fans or firsthand, and they absolutely loved the show.
Yeah, it was great.
And I did find out a few things about having ladies on the podcast.
Okay, and what are those things?
First and foremost, they don't like being interrupted. They don't like that at all.
I mean, like the way you and Root interrupt each other?
Well, I have to. I mean, you've seen him. He just drones on. I mean, he gets into the weeds and stuff, and I mean, he can't even find his way out. He didn't even leave any fucking breadcrumbs for anybody. But ladies, they don't want to be interrupted. And I should have learned that these many years.
Yes.
But evidently, I still haven't. And also, Heather just broke out into a white girl rap. She went straight up into the Beastie Boys.
Wow.
And
she
nailed
did,
it.
didn't she?
And nailed it.
She did, yes.
You know, so we call ourselves a talent.
Yeah.
We can't have them back over very often because they're actually, I think they may be better at this shit than we are.
They might take over the show. We have to be very careful.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the again, ladies, thank you for coming over. We look forward to having you ladies on again in the future. So Lloyd, shows that your mom and dad loved, that your family, maybe you watched as a family. Is there any shows that you can recall?
No, my mother never really watched TV, and I don't remember my dad watching much TV either. They really just didn't do that. It's very strange, I know.
Well, my dad, as I've mentioned on several podcasts, my dad worked 2 to 3 jobs my whole life, my whole childhood. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, but I mean the TV was never ever on during the day. Mom actually was a homemaker, and the house was always immaculate. Food was always on the table. Laundry was always done. We always made fun of her that she actually dusted, and she caught the dust before it actually hit the furniture.
She was very efficient.
She would vacuum multiple times a week, and if she looked down from heaven right now and see how I keep my house, she would be utterly disappointed in me. This is one of the many reasons that she's very disappointed.
She would be on your ass about it.
She would be.
So,
but there was one show though that our house shut down for.
Okay.
And it was Hee Haw.
Oh, Hee Haw, yes.
And my mom and my dad absolutely adored Hee Haw. Now, my recollection of Hee Haw as a child was a bunch of adults, and in hindsight, I now understand it was kind of second to Laugh In.
Okay, yes.
Laugh
yes.
In was from the 60s.
Yes.
And was kind of flower child hippie type thing, hippy dippy. And I think then, and I remember watching Laugh In. You remember, did you ever watch it?
Yes. Yeah.
You had Roland Martin.
Roland Martin, yes.
And you had Lily Tomlin in the big rocking chair. Currently still a lesbian.
Yeah.
And a Goldie Hawn.
Yes, she was on that, yes.
A teenage Goldie Hawn.
That's right. Flower Child.
Yeah. Do you also remember, I'm going to get to Hee Haw. Let me go ahead and get to Hee Haw, then I think I got something else I want to go back to.
Okay.
But I remember Hee Haw just being a bunch of adults acting the fool, being silly, right? And then the ladies really just showing a whole lot of their boobies.
Yeah, they had long legs and showing their boobs.
Yeah, and I did not really realize until as an adult I watched it again that was a dirty ass show.
It was.
And my mom and dad, you always think your mom and dad are just salt of the earth. Pure as driven snow.
Of course.
Of course, they never had sex. I was a product of immaculate conception.
Very saintly people.
Yeah, and then come to find out, they're watching damn chauvinistic, boobies out, we pay you to be pretty shit, But, I mean, some of the best, I'm a big fan of old country music. And some of the best performances were on that show.
Yes.
They would go from having George Jones to Johnny Cash to Waylon Jennings,
Charlie Pride was
Charlie
on
Pride. Charlie Pride, and my grandmother and grandfather said, we like him. He doesn't sound like he's black. And, Hee Haw was really, really popular.
Well, you bring that up. I was going to ask you, as a child, who was your first TV crush?
Elizabeth Montgomery.
No, that's my answer.
Well.
Yeah, look, it's right here. I wrote it down. Look.
He
Bewitched. Look.
He brings paper.
Look.
So
he stole my answer.
As he turns to the right, like he's looking at the audience.
I've got to pretend like I've got an audience here.
No, so it would have been a close tie between Elizabeth Montgomery and Barbara Eden.
Barbara Eden, yeah.
And also, of course, the ladies on Gilligan's Island.
Okay, all right.
I was a big Mary Ann fan.
Yeah.
And, Ginger was a little hot potato, just.
But isn't everybody that's a fan of that not a ginger person. I mean, it's like, I don't think it's like she was made to be the Marilyn Monroe movie star, but I think everybody was more after the other girl.
Well, I think as adults, men of our age, we've met a lot of women that were attention whores.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And
that's true.
you look at them and think, well, high maintenance.
Yeah.
And that
I don't want to put up with that.
Yeah, high maintenance can take a beautiful woman. It can take a 10 and knock it down to a 5.
That's true.
Right?
That's
and if
true.
you're an 8, you may be a negative number if you're too high maintenance.
That's true. That's
And
true.
Lord forgive you if you're 6 and you're high maintenance, because you're going to end up, living with a bunch of cats.
Yeah, just forget it.
Because it was just not going to do it.
Just give up on it.
Yeah, that was by far. Elizabeth Montgomery, I liked her because she was sassy, and probably, and maybe even not my first, but because I'm still thinking all those shows were in black and white, right? But one of my first color crushes was Wonder Woman.
Okay, all right, I can see that.
Linda
Carter.
Linda Carter.
Carter, yeah.
So Wonder Woman, because she was superhero,
Yes.
and plus she had boobies.
Yeah, she had boobs. Yes.
If I'm going to get saved, Superman, keep your ass at home. I want the woman flying in the see-through airplane.
But you've got to think about that too. It's like, her having an invisible jet is kind of worthless if she's also not invisible. It's
That's
like,
true. That's true.
who's that gorgeous woman squatting at 30,000 feet?
You know what? I don't mind seeing it. I ain't gonna lie to you. She got her some knee-high boots on, and she's squatting, flying over my head. That's a Friday night in James's world.
James is happy.
Now, going back to that time, do you remember the era of the variety show? Because we talked a little bit about.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about Laugh In and Hee Haw.
Sonny and Cher
Sonny
had
and Cher.
one.
I want to tell you what, Cher, my goodness. And she's now, I think she's 115 years old now.
I think she is, yeah.
And she was on some award show this past year. And granted, I mean, she's gotten more work,
She's all plastic at this point.
than the 1985 Chevy truck.
Right.
No offense, Lloyd.
None taken.
Well, because I know how you like you a Chevy.
I do like a Chevy.
And a Dodge.
Yes.
And Ford last.
And Ford last.
Yeah. But
In that order.
Also, remember the Flip Wilson show?
Vaguely.
Flip Wilson was one of the first cross-dressing. You look, of course, this is all in the 60s.
Right.
60s, early 70s.
Right.
Flip Wilson was one of the first cross-dressing Hollywood stars, black guy. Flip Wilson was a black guy and would dress in drag for parts of his show, not the whole time. But it was yet another variety show.
And it doesn't seem like there was there an uproar in the public eye over that, where it was just accepted as he was acting and he was putting on a show?
Well, you got to realize you're coming off the heels of the 60s.
Yeah.
You're coming off the heels of the season of love.
Right.
And I would say, without getting political, that it was a season where the liberals were really running the media. They were doing the programming, all that sort of stuff.
Kind of like today.
And, no, fake news. That is fake news right there. But, I think that's what it was. So I don't think there was as much of a public outroar because the people who had money were the ones that had TV.
Right.
And many times those were people that were socially liberal.
Well, come to think of it, that was a big part of Monty Python's success too. They did a lot of that.
A lot of what?
Well, where the guys would do skits and they were all dressed as women.
Well, but they were British.
Well, they were.
And
British.
we give a whole lot more. We get a lot of roped British people.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying.
They sound smart.
They do. Got bad teeth, but they sound smart.
They can't figure out how to get straight teeth. But those bastards can judge it at a cooking show.
There's always been a shortage of fluoride apparently in
evidently,
England.
I'm not familiar with Monty Python that much. I know you're a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
But if we're talking about the British invasion, then as a kid there was none better than Benny Hill.
Oh, I'm singing the theme song in my head right now. All you need is a little comedy, speed it up just a little bit, a little background music, and you are rolling.
And what I need is a short little bald man that I can smack in the back of the head while we're running around.
Yeah, and if you realize there was a lot of TNA on that too, so
Oh,
that was a big part of that as well.
And I remember asking my mom and dad if I could stay up till 11 o'clock to watch Benny Hill. And I think that may have been one of the first shows I made Knuckle Children fall from.
We're sharing things here in the Tree of Trust.
We are. It's in the trust tree. So moving on, now we were talking about kind of the 60s, early 70s. Now going into the late 70s, early 80s. Are there any shows that you remember as you're not a toddler anymore.
Right.
You're coming into preteen and teenage years.
Right.
That really you can harken back to and go, man, that was an amazing show.
I remember I always looked forward to Tuesday nights because that was the night that Three's Company came on. I loved the show Three's Company.
So tell us what you like about Three's Company.
Well,
for those of you that don't know it, the premise was you had a supposedly straight man that was living with two very attractive women that was posing to be gay in order for the landlord not to throw him out.
Right.
When in all actuality, he was a womanizer of sorts.
He was. I think
Suzanne Summers, Joyce DeWitt,
beautiful women.
John Ritter,
Beautiful women.
Don Knotts.
Beautiful women on that show.
Just-
Beautiful women.
Love
But
women.
I think the thing that I liked about it, and I didn't realize it at the time, was John Ritter's character was made to be gay, but at the time, being a kid, I just thought, oh, he's acting funny. So when certain people would come around, of course, the girls there knew he was not gay, but if anybody else from the outside came around, especially the landlord, he would just start acting gay, and it was to get a laugh. I just thought that was funny. I didn't really make the connection that it was a sexuality thing. It was just, oh, he's acting funny. I had no idea what it actually meant.
And I don't know, I think it's good that you mentioned that. I don't know if I truly understood at that time what being gay meant either. Because, especially where we're from,
Right.
Anybody that and sadly, anybody that had that thought process or was born that way or raised that way, however you're going to choose to believe, they were not somebody that was exalted. They were somebody that was kept away from other people, or made fun of, or bullied, or whatever the case.
A funny story about that.
It's
about
hard to
that show.
segue from that.
About
gay bashing, and then he goes, a funny
There's
story
a
about
funny
gay
story-
bashing.
A funny story about gay bashing. On Three's Company, there is an episode of Three's Company, probably within the last 5 years. Larry. He was
the.
Isn't he kind of like the guy on the Family Guy? That's the
Quagmire?
Yeah, isn't he kind of the same
You know
guy?
what? That's a great analogy. He's very similar
He's
to
kinda
Quagmire.
the same guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is an episode of Three's Company. Of course, now it comes on in reruns years later. Within the last 5 years, there was a scene where John Ritter is in short shorts and he sits on the bed, and you can see just a sliver of his testicles.
All right, I'm going to just go and stop you right there. Why the fuck are you looking up John Ritter's pant leg?
Listen to me.
No.
No. Listen to me.
Trust, thank God.
So apparently, of all the hundreds of thousands of times that show has been watched and rewatched, somebody noticed that there was just a little peek of that on the show, and so that episode has actually gotten taken off the air, 20 years after it was made and watched hundreds of thousands of times, and somebody's complained. It's like, wait a minute, I think I saw something, and they took it off. They took that episode away just because of that.
Interesting story. I don't know that I would have told it because now everybody's thinking about Lloyd checking out to see if somebody's nutsack's hanging out.
I just saw it was in the news. I thought it was funny.
I don't know if that's in the news. I don't know what kind of news. I mean, that wasn't in the State Journal.
The audience will just have to deal with it.
Talk about slightly uncomfortable. When you have a nut hanging out of your shorts, that is not slightly uncomfortable. That shit hurts.
It's a little uncomfortable.
But I don't really know the segue from that. But I will say that one of the shows that I found that I really loved was Mork and Mindy.
Okay. Mork from Ork.
Yes, Mork from Ork. Robin Williams got his start on Happy Days. And Happy Days, although I watched it, I don't know that I was necessarily I had to stop my world. I really liked the Fonz. Fonz was cool.
Now that show was set in the 60s or the 50s?
50s.
Okay. And I guess I didn't understand as a kid that show actually was made many years later. I just thought, well, that's just a really old show. I didn't make the connection that this is a show later on trying to go back to the 50s.
And it was a great show because it really captured Americana, and, wholesome, a lot of characters I can still remember. The Fonz, Pinky Tuscadero, Leather Tuscadero, all of the Tuscaderos, because they were hot. Pinky was the supposed good girl, and then Leather. Leather was not the good girl. She wore the leather head to toe and all that. Right. And, of course, Fonz and Mrs. Cunningham.
Have you noticed that a lot of the focus that we have on
Little Richie Cunningham.
on all these shows, it has to do with all the hot women in it, and here I am. I just got stuck talking about John Ritter.
Well, no, you didn't get stuck. You wrote fucking notes down.
Hey.
You actually have a note that
thought
says,
it was funny. I thought it was
speak
funny.
to John Ritter's
I
nutsack.
thought it was funny.
Well,
I thought it was funny.
you know what? And I would, if I were a good friend of yours, I'm like, how about we just rewind the show and cut that segment again?
No, it's staying. It's staying.
We don't do that here.
It's staying.
We don't do that here.
Maybe we could segue to Mike.
No, we're not. That is not the segue we're going to use to go to our sponsor. No, we're not doing that to you.
Okay,
Mike.
all right.
We're not going to do that to you. But Mork and Mindy, again, Pam Dauber, adorable.
Cute, very cute.
And
Yes.
you're right. She didn't really have a lot of, shall I say, sex appeal.
Right.
But she was adorable. She was wholesome. She was sweet. She had her morals, and then, of course, you had Robin Williams that got his start on Happy Days.
Right.
As you said, Mork for Mork. So it was about aliens. And
Now, was one of the premises of the show that as they were young, when they were young, they looked like an old man, and they gradually got younger? Is that
came along much later in the series?
Okay.
When they were struggling with ratings.
Okay.
And they brought on Jonathan Winters.
okay? So he was an old man, but he was actually young in the alien world, I guess. Is that right?
That is correct, because as they got older, years-wise, they got younger physically.
Gotcha.
They were born old.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it was quite a vehicle for a young, upcoming comedian
Oh, for sure.
who, in hindsight, was coked out of his head. Took every drug known to man.
Sure.
And was just coked out. But I can still watch it and find it. All right, it's a little campy now.
Yeah,
Which,
yeah.
honestly, most of the shows we're going to talk about in this era have a hard time living through it.
That's a good point, because when you have certain memories of a show and you think, oh, that was a really funny show, and you go back, some shows hold up over time, and some of them are just, the
They're lost.
comedy's just gone.
And I think I lost something in our conversation, because I forgot to mention one from the 60s
Okay.
that I am now starting to rewatch.
Okay.
Is All in the Family.
Okay. Archie Bunker.
Oh yeah, my mom and dad were a huge All in the Family fan, and I've watched several different iterations. I like Carroll O'Connor. I like the actor that portrayed Archie Bunker. He was also in a TV show called In the Heat of the Night.
Yes. He was.
And I thought he was fantastic. He's been good in everything he's ever been in. And I've always admired somebody that looks like an older, balding, fat guy and can make it as an actor in Hollywood with his vein.
Yes.
I mean, Steve Buscemi, idol. I mean, he could be arguably the ugliest white man ever to be, to
movie
draw
star.
breath.
Yes.
Draw breath. And he's a fucking Hollywood movie
He's a
star.
big star, yeah.
But All in the Family dealt with, again, watching it again, because what made me want to watch it again was they're getting ready to recast, and they're going to re-release a new version of All in the Family.
I didn't know that.
Which,
Is it going to work?
no, it's one of those things that's set up for failure
Yes.
from the jump.
Yeah, that's right.
Because
It's a different time now. It's like Archie Bunker could say whatever he wanted to.
I watched the first episode, the pilot episode, the other day, and it's on Crackle TV,
Okay, yeah.
which evidently Crackle is owned by Sony,
Yes, it is.
and they're trying to get it up and going as like the next Netflix or Hulu. And the only reason I downloaded it's free currently. The only reason I downloaded it was the only venue in which you could see All in the Family for free.
Really?
So
Okay.
I downloaded it. It has commercials and stuff, but it's not bad.
We're not being paid by Sony, by the way.
We're not. This is not a paid endorsement. But I watched the first episode, and in one episode, he had 6 racial slurs. And that's not even counting how chauvinistic he is toward Edith, with telling her to shut up and to stifle herself and all that sort of stuff. And how many times he calls Mike Stivic the Polak and the dumb blonde.
Are you not shocked that it's not been taken off the air yet?
It's not on the air now. It's not even on TV land.
Really?
No.
So they've
No.
taken it out that far.
And because we're too damn hypersensitive,
Oh, absolutely.
and we can't look at that as saying that's a parody.
Yeah.
That's
right.
something that's making fun of people that do that.
Right.
They're saying that I shouldn't even have to hear that. And as Lloyd will say all the time, that I'm the liberal in the group, and I am more liberal than anyone else. But I don't get my butt hurt over that kind of stuff, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's one of the reasons why we started this damn podcast.
Right.
And we've gotten criticisms from folks that listened to it once or twice, and they said, we just can't listen to it anymore because you use too much profanity.
Okay.
And I look at it very nicely and go, fuck you. I mean, we call this Slightly Uncomfortable for a reason.
Right.
If it makes you slightly uncomfortable, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. in a
But
way.
when guys get together, talk, and drink bourbon, we have to, every other part of our life, be it at work, be it with our family, be it with our relationships, we have to have a filter.
We have to, yes.
Because we may think it. I mean, honestly, folks, think about this in your day. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it's my show. It's our show. But you think about throughout your day, how many people you would love to look at and go, well, fuck you. But you know what? We don't, because we're adults, and that's not how adults deal with one another.
And we need our jobs.
We need our jobs. We don't get our ass whooped at Kroger.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff. But we can do it in the form that's this show.
Right.
And we know, everybody sitting around this table knows, we don't mean that.
No.
And
no.
even if I get fired up over the Big Lebowski not wearing the fucking movie bracket, which they should have won, at least if nothing else, should have come in third in Roots' version, you know, of the consolation round.
He is still tore up about the Big Lebowski.
It should at least had a chance against Shawshank. It could have had a swinger's chance, a slugger's chance there at Shawshank.
Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, but what ended up making it up there? Like what?
What was it? Forrest Gump and
No, I think it's A Few Good Men.
Few Good Men. Okay, yeah.
May have been.
Probably
Anyway.
so. Anyway,
But
that's history. Give it up, James.
I'm still lobbying. But that's one of the things that we like, and I think that's one of the things that draws me to All in the Family, is there wasn't a filter that much on that show, and they were trying to prove a point. Because you got to think, when that show was being filmed, Richard Nixon was in office.
Right.
And one of the coolest things, I think it was in the 4th episode I was watching, because you end up, even though that Archie is a racist, chauvinistic blowhard, you end up liking him.
Right. Oh yeah.
For his just little quirks and everything. But he was going to write a letter to the President Nixon. Mm-hmm. And this thing cut, and it came back, and he was sitting at his kitchen table wearing a suit.
Okay.
Because he was writing a letter to the President.
Oh wow. Okay.
And I thought just for a moment, I'm like, look how far we've dropped.
Oh yes.
Because people can look at that show and think, well, we've got much more socially progressive, and we have.
Mm-hmm.
Racial tensions are much better now than they were then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, women's rights much better now than they were then.
Mm-hmm.
All that. Gay rights didn't even exist back then, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we've lost some stuff too.
Yes.
And the mere thought of writing a letter, he dressed up.
Wow.
You know, and now we're reading poop tweets from our current president, regardless of what they're about. It's the semantics. It's the, you know, it's how the office is being treated and looked at. So I think we've come a long way. Because even Richard Nixon had a stature about him in that office, you know, that I don't know that's being emulated this much now.
Right.
I would love to see us go back to, honestly, I'd like to see us go back to a lot of that stuff. Don't be so damn sensitive.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Be able to be friends with your neighbor that doesn't see things the way that you do, like the Jeffersons did.
Right. I mean, we obviously don't see eye to eye on a lot of political things,
The
but
hand gesture
we're
doesn't
still
really
good
help.
friends. Yeah.
Lloyd, he's pointing back and forth between he and I with his fingers, and that doesn't work.
Well, you never know. We may do a video version of this sometime. I'm just practicing.
Well, you'll nail it.
Yeah, I'll get it. I'll get it
The whole
down.
podcast part
That's
may
right.
be passing you by, but if we have a made-for-TV movie,
Yeah, a documentary, if you will.
Yeah.
Kind of like The Office. Maybe they're just cameras in here.
It
and
could just be.
We're just going to
A mockumentary,
A
yeah.
mockumentary. That's what we need.
yeah,
yes.
break the fourth wall, all
That's
that
right.
sort of stuff.
It's like Spinal Tap.
Oh God, another. Isn't that Monty Python too? Is that-
No, that's a movie from the 70s. But they're following a fake rock
Well,
band.
but
and,
isn't that movie is the same people that did Mighty Wind and Best in Show? It's Christopher Guest.
yeah, I guess it is. Yeah,
it's
come to think of
the
it.
exact same ones that did. And if you're all familiar with the Mighty Wind, that did the Folksman,
That's right. That's right.
and they
Yep.
were Spinal Tap.
That's right. Yep.
Talk about the irony.
This is Spinal Tap.
Yeah. So now we're into the 70s, early 80s, right? And I think that's probably the time that Lloyd and I got into watching as much TV as we've ever watched.
Probably so.
Because what was Thursday night, Lloyd? Who owned the Thursday night 8 o'clock time slot?
I don't know. Who was it?
Bill Cosby Show.
Oh, yes.
The Cosbys.
The Cosbys.
The Cosby's owned it,
Boy, you talk about a
right?
you talk about a change from that time
Right?
for that man.
I mean, he was America's dad,
He was.
you know, and Felicia Rashad was probably, for a lot of white guys, one of the first black women that they were like, oh my God, she is hot. And it really, it broke so many social stereotypes in that it was a successful black family.
Yes.
The only other one that I can recall that was on TV prior to that was Jefferson's.
The Jeffersons, yeah.
But they had kind of dug themselves up out of the projects, right?
Right.
But now the Huxtables,
They were doctors.
doctors. I don't know if Felicia Rashad was a doctor. I don't know if Claire Huxtable.
Claire Huxtable was. I can't remember.
And then you've got Lisa Bonet. You've got just a fantastic show. Well written, funny, heart tugging. Really one of the first of that I can recall. I don't know, maybe not. Happy Days was kind of like that.
You know, one thing I don't know, that show, I really didn't watch it on a regular basis. It didn't seem to me like it had the when it went into reruns, it's like it didn't seem like that there was as big a following as there was for some of these other shows. Like there wasn't like a longing, oh, I can't wait to watch all the episodes of the Cosby Show again. It just didn't seem like there was a lot of replay value.
I don't
for
think
most
that
people.
it held the test of time.
Yeah, it didn't.
As
Yeah,
well as some.
right.
But the one that we've forgotten, though, talking about holding the test of time, the best of all time, the best series of all time that has held up over the years more so than any other one.
What's your answer?
Give me a guess.
What's your answer?
Come on, I know. Give
Besides,
me a guess. I know
besides
what it is.
Seinfeld? Is that what you're talking about? What are you talking about?
Not even close.
What are you talking about?
Andy Griffith.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I almost brought that up. Yes,
Andy Griffith. Oh,
That's
did you
true.
have a note about that?
No, but
Evidently you didn't.
No, but I thought about it. That's why I forgot it. I didn't write it down.
You're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it. Don't think about it.
But Andy Griffith, I want to say, was in the early 60s to mid 60s.
Yep.
And if you go on TBS now,
It's huge.
yeah.
It's huge.
I hit on my DVR, I just said record Andy Griffith because I was in the Andy mood. 2 days later, I had 60 episodes recorded.
Wow.
I mean, that's
Well,
how often it's on
everywhere.
TV.
It's everywhere.
Because the great thing of it is, it doesn't offend anybody.
No. No.
It really doesn't. But it appeals to everyone. I think I would go down and say if it's not I Love Lucy, which I Love Lucy was amazing, but the slapstick can grow old to you after a while. Whereas the Andy Griffith stuff is more wholesome
It's
humor,
very wholesome. Very wholesome.
which you
humor.
don't see on TV now at all.
No. No.
A lot of shows did slapstick years after, from the Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, all of those, right? And now they're still doing slapstick.
We were talking about some shows just don't stand the test of time. I remember I watched not too long ago an episode of, is it Good Times that had JJ on it? Was that show? Or was it
Kid Dynamite.
Kid Dynamite?
That was what he called himself, Dynamite.
Dynamite.
And
Well,
it had James and Florida were the parents. And gave the first star to a little lady we like to call Janet Jackson.
Oh, yeah. But now, when I watched that, it was awful. It did not stay. I mean, you probably think, that show was a good show. You go watch it today, and the comedy we can't relate to it anymore.
Well, and I think, with All in the Family, with Good Times, they were also trying to make a social statement. Because I remember a few things from Good Times where they were talking about how kids were abused at home. And there was one where I think it was, I cannot remember what character's friend, was mainlining heroin in the bathroom. And they were talking about the dangers of intravenous drugs, that kind of stuff. The one thing that I really remember was James, the father.
Okay, yes.
Because he'd whoop an ass in a heartbeat.
He would.
And he was a bad ass.
He would.
I think his last name was James Amos. Amos was his real last name.
Okay.
He reminded me so much of my Uncle Bob when I was a kid.
Okay.
They both wore the banded bottom velour shirts with the V-neck. In the Indian head, Avon necklace, the Arrowhead Avon necklace.
Yes. I had one as a kid.
We all did.
Yeah, we all did.
Right before we got the double herringbone.
That's right.
Triple herringbone for those of us that have money.
Rich people.
Yeah. But you're right. There were a lot, I think especially in the 70s, where a lot of them were trying to make, because they saw what happened with All in the Family. and how just extremely popular that was. I think you started seeing offshoots of it
Right.
that were trying to be socially conscious as well.
Yes.
And it just fell on deaf ears.
Yes. Yeah.
Because All in the Family, Norman Lear was the writer and producer of All in the Family. And I didn't get that from notes. I got that because my name is James, and I know this shit. Because
He drinks and he knows things.
I drink, I own a beard, and I know things. But I was an only child. I mean, this was my brother and my sister. This was my friend down the street. This is what I grew up on.
Right.
You know, and I was a fat little kid because I never got out of the damn house. You know, I was the kid that people talk about these kids being today.
Right.
Is they sit and they get in front of a screen.
Yep.
And they don't do anything
They don't
else.
do anything, yeah.
And until I got to be about 13, I picked up a basketball. That's all I ever did was watch TV.
Right.
So
I wonder for myself if there were video games like we have today, then
you'd be
I
500
would
pounds.
I would have been 500 pounds.
You'd been on TV. You'd been on my 600 pound.
I would.
Yeah.
I would. I mean, because I could have seen as a teenager, instead of playing sports, I would have probably been in front of a computer.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you know.
Yeah. Because I remember when you first got on the computer.
Oh yeah.
He went from a stealth 165 to a good 230 in a year. And his ass just, I don't know about it, but I'm assuming it just got flat from sitting on the chair.
I was hooked.
Oh, my God, you were.
I went to James's house and he had gotten the dial-up version of AOL, which is what everybody
And
had
I got
at the
my
time.
Apple, not my Apple, my Gateway computer.
It was his gateway computer in the spotted box.
Yes,
and
in the Holstein box.
And he was running like Windows 3.1. It wasn't even like the modern version of Windows.
I think it was just called Windows.
I think it may be just
It
Windows.
may be just-
There was only Windows.
Yeah, that's it. There was not a one.
There wasn't a part 2.
No.
So he's online. This is my first experience ever being online, and he's going into like AOL chat rooms, and he's just like typing back and forth to people. Age, sex, location. That's what you asked back
And
then.
also, remember we would sing? We would say a word of a song.
Oh yeah.
You know?
and people would just go right along with it.
Yeah, just all sorts of stuff.
And as James knew, he said when I left, he's like, well, he had that look in his eye.
Yep.
It wasn't 2 days later I had my own computer.
And we didn't see Lloyd. We didn't see Lloyd. Every once in a while, he would come out and to feed.
Yeah, every once
and
in a
to try to mate. That was the only reasons.
I was
we would
like
see.
Cartman playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, you're right.
Bathroom, Mom!
You need a shit can. It's a wonder you have a shit can. But now, the funny thing of it was we introduced the computers. Lloyd went straight to video gaming.
Yes.
That was a burp. That was a taco casserole, bourbon.
Quite the combination.
We don't have a cough button on here. We damn sure don't have a burp button.
No.
Anyway, that's what happens when you talk too fast after having a taco casserole earlier. But he went the way of the video game. Mm-hmm. I went the way of pornography. Lloyd gained some weight, and I just gained some mass in my right arm. That was it. Because at that time, I was in a sexless marriage, and all of a sudden, James has got free porn.
James, you're looking pretty buff on your right side.
Well, it's like sitting in the sun on one side. Sometimes you have to rotate. But I tried it the other night, and I poked myself in the eye.
It's like trying to brush your teeth with the left hand.
That's right.
Just doesn't work.
So now we're in the 80s. We talked about the Cosbys, right? Any other impactful show? 18.
18. Love the 18.
George Papard.
Uh-huh. You had Mr. T.
Mr. T.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the rest of them.
I don't either. Was there a girl?
There was no girl.
There was no girls. 4 guys, right?
Yeah. And if you remember that show, no one ever got hurt.
No, that's right. Explosions, vehicle wrecks,
Multiple flip car wrecks.
And they would. It seemed like they would go out of their way. Like if there were 2 men in a van that had just rolled on the freeway and wrecked, you would always see the 2 of them crawl out. They were fine.
They would always leave the camera on the vehicle to prove no one's hurt.
No one's hurt. No.
Nothing more to be seen.
No, it's fine. Everybody's good.
One of my favorite shows, and I think this is the show they should come back with, is with one of the first small people I've seen on TV, which was Fantasy Island.
Oh, Fantasy Island.
With
the plane.
Right. Hervé Villachez.
Yes.
And what was the guy's name?
Richard, was it Ricardo?
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah, there we go.
But of course, the premise of that was they had an island that if you paid enough money, they would fulfill whatever fantasy that you had. That could play now. If you're looking back on old TV shows to recreate, that could play
That would
now.
work. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because people always have fantasies.
I don't need an island.
And and of course, they always had the moral of the story was be careful what you wish for.
Right, it would always backfire. Or
Right,
whatever.
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that could be some sexy times.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a really, really good show right now.
That's a good idea, James.
You're welcome.
Maybe we're doing the wrong thing with these podcasts.
Well, you know what? We're sitting in the basement, and other people are making millions on our ideas. I'm sort of. Well, is there any other '80s shows that you recall?
No.
I got one.
Okay, let's hear it.
It just permeated society. Was Dallas.
Oh, yes.
You know, that was, you started seeing the primetime soap operas.
Yes.
Dallas, Knox Landing.
Now, I watched Knots Landing for
Remember?
a while. Yeah.
And remember when JR got shot?
That was like everybody in the world was who shot JR.
Right. You know, and Victoria Principal was on that.
Mm-hmm.
TV's Aquaman, Patrick Duffy.
Yeah.
Remember the TV show Aquaman?
Wasn't Heather Locklear on one of those?
Yes, Jesus. She was on, I won't say Knox Landing.
Knots Landing, maybe so.
Heather Locklear, yeah.
Oh. Talk about knuckle children.
Yeah. Oh, and also talking about Knuckle Children. How about Charlie's Angels?
Oh, yes.
You know, Farrah Fawcett, Kate Jackson, Jacqueline Smith.
Let me tell you something. Jacqueline Smith.
Tanya Roberts.
I think Jacqueline Smith probably is 104 years old at this point. She is still hot.
Agreed. She's got her line of clothing at the Kmart.
At the Kmart.
Which I don't think, if there is a Kmart
Yeah,
in the
I
area,
think there's
you're
like
welcome
one.
to go buy you some Jacqueline Smith
I
wear.
think there's one left.
There may be.
I think she may have barked up the wrong tree putting herself in with Kmart.
Anybody that put themselves in with Kmart, who got bought out by Sears, another hardy business establishment. So now we're into, and I think we can probably stop here and talk a little bit about sports as we grew up, how we watch them on TV.
Before we get too far, I want to bring up a point about maybe as a side.
course.
As a side, if I could take a few minutes of our time.
Let's talk about all the things you want to talk about.
Of course, how selfish of me.
How selfish of me.
We're talking about just
He's got notes. He's referring to his notes.
around this time, of course, you had VCRs and you had video recorders. So it was,
What's the difference?
well, VCR is the player, not video recorder, but cameras. Video cameras is what I meant. So for normal home use, video cameras, fathers would always go around taking videos of kids and stuff. And, of course, nowadays that's just everywhere,
Well, you got your phone.
Like I have, obviously my child, I've got tons of videos of the time he was born all the way up. But now I don't know about James. I was always impressed when people that were from the 60s, from the 70s, and on TV, there would be video recordings of them. Because I know that I don't believe there's any video recordings of me that exist.
No, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? So nowhere.
Maybe Polaroids or something.
Right, but rich families would have video cameras, and you would see video, like, the Kennedys, stuff like that. You would see a lot of that recorded, but there's no video of me until I was 20.
Well, one of the few ways to separate me from the Kennedys is my lack of video.
He has no video.
I don't have any video. I'm only audio.
But my point is that it's kind of sad that there is no video of me as a kid at all.
I don't know that it's that sad. I get to see you live all the time, and it's not that great.
Well, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
But actually, this was odd. I was actually going through our videos when we drove cross country. I went.
Yes.
I went chronologically.
Those are awesome.
All the way through where
5
we
years.
did our video diary of a 5-day trip across the United States in a caravan of a Penske truck, a Jeep, and a minivan.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. But you're right. I know we probably should have started with this, but my father is 93 years old, and they didn't have TV. They didn't have electricity when he was a kid. But they would mainly listen to the radio.
Yes.
And the Shadow Knows and all of these old vintage radio shows. He told him it was like they were reading a book, because he said with a book you can visualize stuff in your mind that otherwise you would not. If it were a picture, it wouldn't be as entertaining.
Right.
Because your imagination is so much more colorful.
True.
But that's what they kind of did, and then it migrated into the television shows, Gene Autry, and all that sort of stuff. But you're right. Back in our day, the people that had money were the ones that got a chance to record family events. And if you run into somebody that has video of the 60s and 70s, understand that they were in a place of wealth.
Yes.
That most of the community did not have.
Did not have, no.
I remember when my dad got our first VCR. And you know what? It's an absolute, if he was sitting here, I'd look him in the eye and tell him I know exactly what. He got a VCR to watch pornography. That's the only reason he got a VCR to watch pornography. And I guarantee you that my father still has the first VHS tape that he bought, which was the first one I saw of pornography.
Really?
I guarantee he does.
Wow.
I could almost walk into his house right now and go in there and put my hands on it. I bet you I could.
Wow.
Because when he moved into his last house, he said, James, you got to go find me a DVD or a VCR. I said, they don't make VCRs. He goes, you need to go find me one. You get on the internet and stuff, you find me a damn VCR. He is close to that tape. And I will tell you, talk about some durability.
I hope he's not listening to this.
No, well, I'll tell him about it. Talk about some durability.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This back in the 70s. That damn VHS tape is still going.
Still going,
After being paused and rewound in that same spot
Yep.
over and over and over. I always told Lloyd, because again, we've known each other a long time, I said, if you ever want to wonder what a man gets off to, find that VHS tape and rewind it about 10 seconds.
Yeah, about 10
because
seconds.
as soon as he pops, he hits stop.
Yeah,
Pop stop.
Yeah, and
And Lloyd is now cleaning off the table again. his folks, if we could record this podcast, oh my God, because his physical tics is fascinating to watch. He'll get uncomfortable and he'll start cleaning shit.
I'm telling you, we need a video of all this. But talking about that and stopping at a certain point, those tapes also would have some wear on them in the video quality. So I'm sure if you watch the tape and you watch the parts that were still kind of grainy all of a sudden, that's probably where it was stopped a bunch of times.
Yeah. But
I've got to adjust the tracking right here.
That's right. Man, you did have to adjust the tracking.
You did have to adjust the tracking.
It's like tuning in the black and white
It
TV.
was.
Did you and your family, Lloyd, watch? Did you all watch sports?
No, I watched sports, but my dad really didn't watch sports, and all I really watched was we still at this point. You got to remember, we still only got 3 channels. It was well into.
Did you listen to it on the radio?
Yes, always listen to UK sports on the radio. Yep, absolutely.
Voice of
Everybody
the
in the
Cats,
state,
Kay
Wood-Lifford. Everyone in the state did that was a sports fan.
Yeah. Now, I remember watching sports with my dad's always been a big sports fan. To this day, he still is. But he was a big fan of Cincinnati Reds. And, of course, we got the Cincinnati Reds on our channel 19 out of Cincinnati.
Okay, all right.
So we could watch the Reds rather frequently. He would obviously watch or listen to the Wildcats all the time.
Right.
He absolutely loved boxing.
Okay.
And now this wasn't necessarily in the 60s, but this was the 70s.
The boxing was huge at the time.
Right. And there would be, on Friday night, they would have Friday night fights.
Yep.
And I can remember Mom and Dad let me stay up to watch Muhammad Ali fight Joe Frazier.
Yep. Yeah.
Or Ken Norton,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be. Sugar Ray Leonard, and even as I got a little older, Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler, and then it evolved to Mike Tyson.
And you still had, at that point, you still only had a few networks, so it's not like there were 500 different divisions of boxing and stuff. There was, just a couple of international, groups for boxing. So they all got on TV. So that's all there was for boxing. There wasn't 50 channels of sports.
And you didn't have 25 different heavyweight belts.
No.
And it wasn't grossly. I mean, back then you could still see a fat guy fight.
Oh yes.
A guy that was out of shape, and just beat the shit out of somebody. And then that kind of evolved to the tough man competitions.
Right.
But
well, now I remember my grandmother was a huge Cincinnati Reds fan, so she would always watch the Reds play. So she was either watching the Reds play, or we were watching wrestling.
Oh, I'm glad you segued into that because that was going to be my next point.
Yeah.
Huge.
No,
Wrestling was huge.
It was huge.
And now, did your mama watch wrestling or just
No.
your grandmother?
Just my grandmother. Yeah, just my grandmother.
Was this your dad's mom?
Yes, Dad's
Okay.
mom. Yeah.
Because my mom and my grandmother were huge wrestling fans.
Really?
To the point to where wrestling would come to Frankfurt at the Farnham Dudgeon Civic Center.
Okay.
And my mom, ICW wrestling.
ICW, okay.
We got ICW wrestling, and every once in a while we'd have Memphis. Now, Memphis would normally go to Rupp Arena.
Right. And the Memphis, I think the Memphis wrestling was probably the ones that I watched. It was
Jerry Lawler.
It was out of Bowling Green. You had Lance Russell and Dave Brown on the mic.
Yeah, you had Jerry Lawler, Bill Dundee.
Dirty Dutchman.
Coco Beware.
Coco Beware. Tojo Yamamoto.
That's exactly right. Pistol Pez Watley.
There you go.
So and then as we got older and we got cable, then you got WTBS.
Yes.
And that got into the Turner Atlanta professional wrestling circuit.
Right.
Where you brought in Ric Flair.
The WCW.
You brought in Ric Flair, you brought in Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Tony Atlas.
Oh, yeah.
Ted DiBiase, but no, it was absolutely huge.
Yeah, it was huge, a huge television
And when I was a kid, I thought it was real.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, I remember one time I think it was my 13th birthday, I got into the back of a magazine, and I ordered me a Mr. Wrestling #2 mask. And I always, even then, I found the irony in wrestler being called Mr. Wrestling #2. Because the least amount of creativity ever in naming anything, and we never knew of #1.
Yeah, who was number one?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know, but now we're these many years, we're questioning it.
I think he died, and then they just said, I'm just going to be #2.
Well, you don't have to bring me down.
Well,
I was having a really good time.
I think you're old enough to know the truth.
I don't want to. I don't want to know that. I'm not okay with that.
And later on, he became known as La Parka.
The coat.
The coat.
And honestly, when Lloyd and I met, we were both into WWF wrestling.
Absolutely.
Now, granted, we did not believe it was real like we did when we were kids.
We didn't.
But the best story that I have in reference to wrestling, and I think maybe wrestling could be a damn good podcast.
It would be, come to think of it.
I don't know if Root, given his age, I would assume that he was a wrestling fan. I'm pretty certain.
I don't think it's up Alex's alley.
I don't know that his alley has ever been close to wrestling.
No.
I mean, maybe Greco-Roman style. Maybe.
No.
I don't know.
No. Maybe Adrian Street.
Oh, that's a horrible thing to say about Alex when he's not here.
Well, he doesn't wear a scarf.
And you know what? If you don't know who Adrian Street is, look him up.
Yeah.
Adrian Adonis was one too. Are you
Adrian
sure
Adonis?
it wasn't Adrian Adonis?
Maybe so.
Okay.
What did I get?
Look
Street
up somebody
as?
named Adrian. If you get the Rocky movie, you're off.
Yeah.
Okay. But the best story that I have is ICW Wrestling came to the Farnham Dungeon Civic Center here in Frankfort, Kentucky. And I think I was probably 14 or 15. And my mom and my grandma got me tickets to the front row.
Oh.
I went in the front row. I'm sorry, it was like the second row, but it was right down there on the floor. We got there early. We got to watch them set up the ring and test the ropes and all that sort of stuff.
Now, you haven't been to a real wrestling show unless you're sitting in metal folding chairs about 4 rows deep.
That could be used as a weapon.
That could be used as a weapon.
Well, and you're hoping would be.
Right.
So we're watching. And my grandma, God rest her soul, she was my buddy. She's my best friend. Mom and I, one match was getting ready to end. You can see it was kind of winding down. And we knew that there was an over-the-top rope battle royale.
Oh.
Next.
Yeah, and you're in the front row.
Right, the second row.
Second row.
We were like one row off of, like at the titty bar. We didn't have to tip.
Yeah.
We could tip if we wanted to.
If there was a pervert row, you were one row back.
One away, yeah. So we decided we were going to go get some refreshments prior to the battle royal starting. So off we went, and we left my grandmother there by herself. My grandmother was about 5'1", spunky, feisty. So we come back, and the line lasts a little bit longer than we had hoped, and the match had already started. So we go back to our seats, and Grandma was not there. Which Grandma was not of the age that we had to worry that she may have wandered off, and we need to do an Amber Alert.
Right. Not that
or a
point.
Golden Alert. It's Golden
Golden
Alert,
Alert, yes.
But we were still a little bit more than concerned that we were over by the bathrooms. We were over by the concession stand. We didn't see Grandma. So where the hell did Grandma go? So we just kind of said, all right, she'll come back. She's a big girl. We look up at the stage, or at the ring.
Oh, no.
And my grandmother is being restrained by security.
Oh, no.
She has got her 27-pound purse, which every woman had back then, the Agner purse, right?
Right.
She had her 27-pound purse cocked and ready because Leapin' Lanny had been thrown over the top rope, and that was her favorite. And she was going to get somebody's ass that threw Leapin' Lanny over that damn top rope. We had to leave. They kicked our whole damn family out. There was no talking. Evidently, she had swung and struck somebody before we got there.
Oh, my goodness.
Because they were like, you can either leave or you can get arrested.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
I almost got arrested with my mother and my grandmother at a wrestling match. That's a damn good
great.
story.
That's a good story.
That's a great story.
You can't beat that.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
But I went back several times thereafter, not with Grandma. We
couldn't take her. She was not allowed.
Well, there was a poster.
There was a poster.
There was a poster of it. But one of the wildest things I saw was it was after a regular match, and Randy Macho Man Savage was wrestling in the circuit, and he ended up going on to be very, very famous.
Right.
He got done wrestling, and he was walking down one of the aisles to go out to where the dressing rooms were. And at the Civic Center, the dressing rooms really weren't as pronounced as they are, most places. So he's walking by some fans, and a fan steps out and smacks him upside his face. And Randy Savage broke his jaw in 3 places and walked away with 1 punch.
Wow.
And somebody there told me that night, said, the difference between real and fake is about a quarter inch.
Yeah.
So don't ever think these guys can't make what they're doing for fake real.
Right.
And I mean, it was one of the most violent things I ever saw.
It's I'm sure that all that's going on in the ring, it's really a gentleman's agreement in a way, because it's like they could really do things that would, put someone out of commission for a while.
Absolutely, just by not pulling something.
And basically, they would, lose income. So it's kind of I'm sure it's a gentleman's agreement to not hurt one another.
Right. And this last part about our wrestling part, because I think we see a podcast.
Yeah, we see a podcast.
And we don't want to hijack this one. But I remember they said that they would write into Andre the Giant scripts that this was the match he was going to lose. And he would look at him in the middle of the match and go, I'm not losing this one.
Oh, yeah, it was totally up to him.
And there was nothing,
nothing
anyone could do.
No.
So I think that was really impactful. Yeah. And the fact that we spent more time talking about that than we did baseball, football, or basketball, or boxing.
Or boxing.
Yeah. So now we're going into young adult, maybe 20 years old or so. Any memories of that time? Or was life so fast that you didn't remember TV back then? At what point in your life, Lloyd, did TV go from a primary form of entertainment to a secondary?
I'd say by the early 90s. I'd say early 90s.
And why was that? Did you discover pussy?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, same thing for me. Yeah.
Moved to Lexington, discovered pussy, so yeah.
Yeah. Moved to the big city.
To the big, moving on up.
Also, you had to pay for cable for the first time.
I do. It's a bill. It just doesn't come over the air.
And if you'll remember anything about Lloyd, he is tighter than bark on a tree.
Thank you.
All right, so Game of Thrones this season was 6 episodes long, and it took me 5 episodes to talk Lloyd into paying $14 to get HBO.
And the only reason I did is I knew that some fool was going to ruin it for me if I didn't get to watch it first. So I was forced to pay $14.99 to get a month of HBO.
Forced. He spends more at a 5-star on a Tuesday than $14.99, getting his big gulps. So I'm with you. I think in the 90s and such. No, I mean they're.
Well, if you remember that was around the time that we met, and we were playing volleyball and basketball. So it just wasn't no longer a priority.
Or as Root would say, the volleyball and the basketball. Root, I hope your sniffles are getting better.
Yeah, and we'll pray for you.
Yeah, we're going to pray for you. That's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to invoke Kenny Loggins to heal you.
Kenny Loggins, heal this man.
Yeah. Show us a sign. But I really don't think there was much to it. But, I mean, I don't know it really evolved all that much other than the channel started to get it a little bit more. Right. I remember when my mom and dad got HBO. And my first rated R movie. Well, I'm going to ask Lloyd first. What was your first ever rated R movie?
Oh, gosh.
And did you see it on the TV? Or did you see it at the movie theater? Or
it probably was on HBO. I don't remember what it was, but I remember in the late 70s, my dad's friend lived in town and had cable and had HBO, and I remember the disclaimer at the first of the movie who said, "This movie is rated R, and HBO will only show this at night.
Yeah, 10 o'clock
Remember
or
that?
after, something like that. Yeah.
So that, they actually would not even show it, making sure all the kids were in bed before they would show an R-rated movie.
And now you see all sorts of shit on TV at 8.
I don't remember what movie it would have been, but I'm sure there was nudity, and I'm sure I was hooked from the very first time.
I remember exactly the movie. I remember that my mother and father had told me to go to bed at like 9. I remember my mom and dad always sat and watched TV in the living room, which was quite a ways away from my bedroom, and I could turn on my little TV. And I also remember they got something called HBO, and the good movies came on after 10.
The late night.
Yeah. So I turned it on to it. It was Channel 4 on my Zenith.
Okay.
And lo and behold, there was one Miss Bo Derek.
Oh, 10.
And Dudley Moore.
Oh, 10.
In the movie 10.
10.
And I'm not going to tell you how many times I did it. I ain't going to tell you how many times I needed to do it. I'm going to tell you, I did it as many times. I was dry heaving at some point. I thought I'd broke it. Because, when you feel it and then there's no evidence of it, I honestly thought, I ain't lying to you, I thought I ran out. I thought I had exhausted my supply. But then I also thought I could do it a couple more times. There's no mess. So.
We are sharing way too much.
Are we oversharing?
I guess we're in the trust tree. I guess we're still in the trust tree. Yeah.
But I think we can look back on that though, and with masturbatory fantasies or stories of a preteen. I think you saw TV change forever at that point when HBO was introduced.
Oh, absolutely.
When you pay more to get better content.
Right.
Or different content.
Right. And it's still around that time. Not many people, not everyone had a VCR or a way to watch a movie at home. There were probably Laserdisc players there for a while. Do you remember those?
VCR was in my world. VCR was way before HBO.
Well, what I mean was, the movie would be out in the theater, and then a few months later, the only way you would see it with no commercials or whatever, or edited for TV, was HBO.
Right, but I'm guessing for me that would have been in the late 70s, and we don't have the information in front of us because it's a holiday weekend and we've not done any damn show prep.
No, never.
But I believe that was about the late 70s, early 80s,
right,
when HBO became a thing, and then again, I think that was the first step toward what we have today.
Yes, it was.
Where people. They paid for cable.
Right.
But now they're going to pay extra to get extra, be it a newer release movie or a second run movie or something like that otherwise would be chewed up on the TV.
Yeah, they won't. They're showing these not long after they came out in theaters. So you were getting new movies, not just the movies that were 2 years old. Right.
Exactly. HBO to me was something that I have a lot of sneaking memories of. I think one of the ones that got me the most is I saw my mom and dad watch The Exorcist on HBO, and I was hiding behind a couch because my mom and dad had told me to go to sleep. And I got behind the couch, and I regret being behind that couch at night because all I knew is they were watching a scary movie, that probably had some nudity in it, and it was both of those. To this day.
He turned into a frightened turtle that night for a while.
To this day, The Exorcist still scares me.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little bit in that movie thing. Oh, Lord.
Talking about HBO reminds me of something else. Every month the HBO subscribers would get a little color book that showed all the movies, when were they coming on, because back then you had no on-screen guides to tell you. It would tell you,
and
what days and time.
It was an unusually sized book.
Small, and that as a larger point, that brings up the industry that was TV Guide, the weekly either subscription or you picked up in the grocery store, because there was no on-screen program. There was no way to know what was coming on what channel and when. So for 40, 50 years, the TV Guide was in every household until they started putting it on the network itself.
I know my mom and dad were religious about the TV Guide.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, on Fridays, whenever the TV Guide came out, I think it was on Fridays we'd get it. And I'd hear Daddy come home, and within 5 minutes being home, honey, we got the TV guide in. And then Mama would say to Daddy, all right, look up and see who's going to be on Johnny Carson or on Johnny this evening.
Yeah.
You know, is the Rockford Files a repeat?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
yeah. And then I'm sure
McMillan and Wife. Have we seen that one before?
I'm sure that the rug was taken out from under their business almost as soon as it began, just gone because nobody needed the TV guide anymore.
No.
Once you could just see on screen what was coming up.
No.
For the next 2 weeks.
That's exactly right. But I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't thought about the TV guide. And some people collect it. I mean, some folks still have the collection of the TV guides. So, given that it really did not matter to us in the 2000s, early 2000s.
Right.
Let's talk about where it is today. Because I think we had a peak of when Dish Network and DirecTV came on the market.
Yeah. I was talking to someone just the other day about the impact that Dish and Direct and there was another one like Navstar or something.
He's just making.
Well, I could be just making that up.
That's just
because at first you had the big 6-10-foot dishes, the big dishes, and then you went to the DirecTV Dish Network.
Well, and they were the receivers.
Right, the receivers.
Everybody calls them the dishes,
Well,
but they were the receivers.
Yeah. But
because if we're anything here, all right, that's the first time in this fucking show I have nerded out on anything. And I don't like me right now.
Well, I thought about people that was in the situation I was in growing up outside of towns. People say like in the mountains, wherever you lived in the United States, suddenly you had access to as much TV as people in cities that had cable systems.
And you probably had more.
And you probably had more.
Because they wanted to put more programming on there to attract those ones that were in the cities. And they also wanted, and there was nobody. I mean, you'd see a sad-ass trailer in eastern Kentucky with a dish out there that cost $4,000.
Yeah. I mean,
because it was not cheap.
Think about.
You had to install the receiver there.
Yeah.
To get the satellite. This is honestly that's before Dish and Direct.
It was, but
that's when they started using the satellites to broadcast television.
But just think about for people in those areas, how much of a game changer that was at connecting them to the things that everyone else in the world was watching.
And how quickly at that point news moved.
Oh yes.
You know, because I know there was one channel that was just for NASA. It just had a NASA camera. The channels were very obscure. There was not programming on a lot of them. They were just cameras that were set up to view something.
Right.
There was one year it was Groundhog Day, and the damn camera was just set up to view
the
Tony Phil, you know, there in Pennsylvania.
Don't drive angry. So, but you know, and like
keep the talent happy.
But like he was saying, that was kind of the peak, the Direct TV and Dish Network years, and then after in modern times, then your best
talking about in the days of our Lord.
In the days of our Lord, 2012.
In the year 2525.
So, at that point, you had the 3 to 4 networks, and they did all the best shows. They had all the big budget shows and everything. Now
3 networks.
There were 3.
You can't add Fox.
Yeah, Fox was a latecomer to the party.
Right, but I mean now Fox is probably one of the most
they're probably more
prolific networks in the business.
But these days, the best shows come on things like Netflix. They come on Hulu as Hulu originals or something like that. So the networks no longer have a stranglehold on the best TV shows.
Oh, they don't only not have a stranglehold. They're losing control.
Oh, absolutely.
Because before, you know, you would pay advertising. You know, if you're going to get on at 8:15 on a Thursday in the 80s, you're going to get on the Cosby Show. If you're going to get for advertising on the Cosby Show, that was a premium show that you had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a 30-second spot, and that stayed in its, you know, in that forum, if you will, all the way through until Dish Network, HBO. You know, HBO was something that it was awesome, but you still had to have cable to get HBO.
Right.
So anybody that lived in the rural areas that did not qualify for cable still didn't have HBO.
No.
But then you've got Dish Network or DirecTV that come out, and now people can get access to HBO in the hills.
Yeah. Oh, anywhere in the United States that you can point a satellite dish at the sky.
Yes.
You know.
If you don't have a big tree in the southwest side.
Then that could be a problem. Well, you talked about the networks pretty much having a stranglehold on charging the big advertising rate. What about our sponsor?
You know what? That's a great segue. We have a sponsor.
Yes.
And it also, just so you all know, Mike's business there at the Plaza Barbershop, Save a Lot parking lot,
About to say what?
here in Frankfort, Kentucky. Mike's business has grown exponentially since he has chosen to advertise on our television
Has he
show.
given us feedback?
Yes.
Okay.
I got my hair cut there this past week at Mike's
Okay.
Barbershop.
Looks
Save a
great.
Lot.
I was admiring it from afar.
It's not Mike's Barbershop, but it should be.
It should be.
It's called the Plaza Barbershop.
Plaza Barbershop.
But we all know
At some point, it's going to be Mike's.
It's going to be Mike's. I mean, a lot of people just walk up the little vestibule that's in front of the Plaza Barbershop at the Save a Lot parking lot here in Frankfort, Kentucky. They walk up that little vestibule and they look in. If Mike ain't there, they just
go home.
They do a 180.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm okay with the rat tail. I can let it go another week until Mike shows back up. But Lloyd has remembered me through many a hairstyle.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And Lloyd, he and I are the only two on this show that still have hair.
Yes, that's right.
Because no matter what Root tells you and what Alex tells you, they're about 5 years away from being a horseshoe. That's all. That's all it is. And but Mike at the Plaza Barbershop there in Frankfort, Kentucky, in the Save a Lot parking lot, Mike can make even the horseshoes look good.
Look good, yeah. He's a master of making that work.
You know what? And I try to get Lloyd when he's in town to go up and give Mike a chance.
Yeah.
Because Lloyd will try.
Right.
He will try until he goes, fuck it, I'm gonna burn my hair off.
That is the case. And I would go right now if it wasn't a holiday. I would just go right up there, but I'm sure he's off today.
He is, because he has a family. Mike at the Plaza Barbershop here in Frankfort, Kentucky, Save a Lot parking lot. Mike is a family man.
Yeah, he's got to have some time off too.
He's got to have his family time.
Yeah.
But his hours is 9 to 5 during the week, 8 to 12:30 on Saturday. Now, I will tell you, I know Mike. Mike and I know each other. We're bros. If you go in there Monday at 10:30, he ain't going to be here.
Right.
I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm thinking the hours are more like Wednesday through Saturday.
That's what I was thinking too.
9 to 5,
Yeah.
8 to 12:30 on Saturday.
Yeah, right.
And it was funny, Root went to go get his hair cut at 8 or 12:39 on Saturday and was pissed the fuck off that Mike went home to be with his family.
He just got through talking about Mike, and he doesn't even know his business hours.
I mean, if you don't know his business hours, it's 9 to 5, Wednesday through Friday.
There you go.
9 to 12:30 on Saturday.
Right. So don't go there at 12:35 because he's got a family and he needs to get home.
Well, he's a family man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he does. As soon as he leaves there, he goes, gets his family. They probably go to prayer meeting.
Yep.
They probably, adopt a child on the way. They help an old lady across the road.
Yeah,
It's what they do.
And he can do a great job with your hair. He can do a great job with your beard.
That's right. And he can also help an old lady across the road.
He can.
He does all the same. And that's a valid point because most barbers don't want to tackle a beard.
Right. Not Mike.
Mike will tackle it.
Go get it.
I had a mullet when I started going to Mike, and now I have a stylish, as the lady said last week, Calvin and Hobbes haircut.
Calvin and Hobbes.
But
he's going with the Calvin.
So make sure, and if you go to see Mike at Plaza Barbershop, Save a Lot parking lot, Frankfort, Kentucky, if you go to see him, tell him that you heard about us or heard about him on our show.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I think we're going to get some more perks from Mike's.
I think so.
Because right now, I'm getting half off of shampoo, and I love that.
He loves a good shampoo.
I love it when a man rubs me on the head. Anyway. I don't know how to segue from
Where were we?
I don't know. But I think the Dish Network and DirecTV came along, and they started battling, right?
Yeah.
And for years, and in a certain degree, it just stopped in the last probably 3 or 4 years.
Right.
To where it would be a great introductory offer. DirecTV or Dish Network, either one.
We have said this for years.
We have. And we talk about this probably once every couple of years.
Once every couple of years, because that's about the time that our contract's up and we're needing to make a decision on whether to stay with Dish or Direct that we're on. It's like, how about you give the customers that have been with you the longest the best price?
The ones that haven't missed a payment, how about you give them a break?
Right.
And the ones that haven't paid you the first red cent,
Yeah.
I think that's racist.
What, red cent?
I think it goes back to an Indian head
I don't know. It could.
I think it went back to Indiana Independent. I need to stop saying that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't say
Because
that.
there's a good chance I may be cut off the air.
I was going to say something, but I'm just not. It's probably not good that I say what I was going to say.
Really?
Yeah, probably.
All right, we're at Slightly Uncomfortable.
Yeah, well,
Which you can find us at SlightlyUncomfortable.com. That's www.SlightlyUncomfortable.com.
and on YouTube.
And also on the
and
Facebook page.
On the Facebook.
Yeah, on the Book of Faces.
But we've always said it's like, why, I would like to stay with you. I would like to keep my package the same, my channels and everything.
Let me just go. If you just picked up on the show during that part where he said he wanted to stay with me and he wanted to keep my package the same, that had nothing to do with James to Lloyd. That had everything to do with about Dish Network.
Right,
DirecTV.
right.
That's to be clear.
And certainly not John Ritter.
No.
But
I was sitting on the bed.
It's like, why don't you
Lloyd watching him.
Why don't you offer your longest customers, your loyal customers, the best prices over time? But they won't do that.
They still don't do it.
No.
But I think now in these past years, because you're now currently unplugged. Are you?
I am unplugged. I use Hulu for my live
So
TV.
you stream.
I stream, and it's been great. It's been great. And the other thing about using Dish, which I think now is far superior to DirecTV.
Oh, it's not even close. It's apples and
No,
oranges.
it's like they try to get you with all these equipment fees. They want $12 for your DVR box, which we need to talk about how that's changed television watching is the DVR.
Okay.
And and then $7 for each additional box, and blah 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 blah. And by the time you're all through, you've got a $60 TV package and $60 more
Add-ons.
of equipment add-ons.
Yep. But I will say that the positive thing about what TV's become now is you're just inundated with channels.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, again, we grew up, we had 3.
Mm-hmm.
Then as we got older, we had 3 networks, right? And then we went to 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have ESPN.
Right.
And we didn't even talk about how ESPN has
Changed sports.
and now how it's almost getting ready to go away.
Yeah.
It is hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing, again, that people have access to information. So if your job in television or radio is to provide people information, you're in trouble.
Right.
Because there are so many sources now that I can get the weather from. I don't need to stay up till 11 o'clock this evening and watch the 11 o'clock news to see what it's going to do tomorrow.
And that brings me to a side point when we talk about
He literally has a margin on the side of his paper that he's been writing, and he has a side point.
No, this is just totally off the cuff.
Oh, what? What?
When you think about businesses that at one time in America were huge and now are just gone, like we alluded to Sears earlier. That was huge at one time, and now it's pretty much gone. Things like, the Piggly Wiggly was a huge supermarket chain, and it's pretty much gone.
All right, so just wait, I know.
You know where I'm
I
going
know
with
he's
this?
rolling on this, but Piggly Wiggly was never big in Frankfort, Kentucky. It may have been big in Podunk, Kentucky. I don't know.
The point being, we think about large companies today.
Harbor.
At some point, places like Walmart and Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, we think those are huge companies and they will never go away. But at some point, they will stop innovating, changing with the times, and they will at some point be gone as well.
I'm gonna go on and argue that, all right, with everything that begins, there's an end. I get that. That's just what the world, what life looks like. But I think that companies like McDonald's, Amazon, Walmart, they've learned from the Sears. They've learned from the Winn-Dixies. I mean, Kroger can be putting that same thing.
True.
They've learned from those. So I think their shelf life is going to be much more than that we saw in these businesses in the past.
It's possible, but if you're a person that kind of thinks that history repeats itself, you could see where that could happen if they make terrible mistakes like Kmart and Sears making bad choices along the way and are irrelevant.
Well, I think that may be another podcast that we're laying down the groundwork for is business.
Yeah.
How we've seen businesses evolve over the past and what was impacted in our life. I think that's a great podcast.
Right.
We've already come up with two
Two
podcasts.
podcasts.
If we get rid of Scarf Boy and Hairhead, Helmet Head over there, I'm sorry, his new name is going to be Sniffles. Arnold Sniffle. So we've got Scarf, We got Lloyd James,
Yeah.
Scarf, and Sniffle.
Well, maybe he needed to borrow Scarf so he didn't have the sniffles today.
I mean, it's fucking 95 degrees outside. I mean,
How can you get a cold?
How do you get a cold in
It
this
is
weather?
90 degrees out.
I mean, his body pushes back pollen as it becomes a life or death episode. Jesus.
But
You look at Root and you think he's a big, hardy guy. Not so much.
not so much.
Not
no,
so much.
not
If he
so much.
doesn't use a wet wipe, after going to the mall,
He apparently does not have a great constitution.
he's down.
He's down.
We may need to send a paramedic.
He had to go in.
Yeah, but I've got the sniffles. I can't breathe good out of my left nostril. Well,
So
so Alex is just out getting late.
yeah, hey,
I'll tell you right now.
good for Alex.
You know what? We're not going to make fun of
no,
Scarf.
no. He wears a scarf, but we're not making fun of him because we know what he's doing.
No, he's wearing a scarf and still gets late.
Oh my God.
That says game right there.
Oh yeah, he's got game.
Fuck, he gets Root hot and heavy.
Oh, I know.
I mean, yeah, he's sitting over there on the other side of the table. Thank God they're on the other side of the
Root's
table.
over here going because he can't talk.
Because he saw a sock that was Alex.
Yeah, crazy. Where were we? We are way off the reservation here.
Careful, Sniffles.
Oh, was that an Indian reference?
You can't do that.
Okay.
One red penny, can't do it. Can't do it off the reservation.
Okay,
Who the
sorry.
fuck says that anymore?
I don't know. I say it.
Don't say it again.
Okay, all right.
First, last. Just don't do it. But I think what we've seen now is, like Lloyd was saying, that the satellite providers got so expensive. I mean, to just get the most basic of packages, it was $100, $125. So now you saw people start trying to unplug, which trying to get, and this is the irony of this whole show, is you get people that unplug and they go get them a high def antenna, and they get 3 channels.
Back to the beginning, right?
Right? It
Yeah.
went full circle.
It's went full circle.
And maybe it needs to.
Maybe
To
so.
keep the industry on
Maybe
you know,
so.
keep trying to innovate.
Well, now stepping back a few years, we have to talk about DVRs
Okay.
because I think that the TiVo and DVR, when those came out,
TiVo sucked.
it did, but at the time it was revolutionary.
It was, but the big kick to TiVo is, yes, we record shit, but we recommend and we record stuff on your behalf.
Yes.
Due to your
We're going to fill up your
viewer
hard
habits.
drive.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want to watch Melrose fucking Place. I didn't watch 90210. I don't want to watch that. Where the fuck are you getting this?
But the way that you can time shift and watch the shows when you want to watch them and they're sitting there recorded for you, to me, was a game changer at that time.
Yeah, because what it did is it relinquished the anchor that shows had to people's lives. Because I know when I was a kid and the Reds were playing, Daddy scheduled his day
Sure,
around the 3-hour Reds baseball game,
sure.
and there was many a fight between my mother and father because there was something that she wanted to go to on a Saturday night, but the Reds went into extra innings.
Yeah.
And also UK basketball. Our live shut down when UK came on
absolutely.
TV.
And now, if we're coming to meet up somewhere to watch a UK basketball game, if one of us is a little late, it's no big deal. We'll just wait till everybody's here and then start the show.
And if somebody wants to go get a drink or needs to get a
We'll
snack or
pause it.
something, like pause it. It's
Pause
good.
it. Yeah.
And I think that probably the DVR and the option to pause live TV has saved more marriages
Oh, absolutely.
than any other piece of technology ever.
Absolutely.
Because Darlin comes in and wants you to take out the garbage right in the middle of the UK ball game. You can pause it.
Yep.
You can get up, take out the garbage. Darling, is there anything else I can do? Awesome. Please let me know if there's something else I can help you with. That guy is getting some pussy that night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Before then, it's like, damn it to hell, don't you know the ball game's on? And then all of a sudden,
Oh,
Katie
it's a
barred
fight.
the door.
It's a fight.
Right?
It's a fight.
So, I honestly think all the way that it has went has been good.
Yes.
But it's a matter of what you want to pay
Yeah. Right.
to get what you want to see.
Right.
And if what you want to pay is less than what you have to, then you find other ways of doing your getting entertainment, right? What I found, I tried to unplug about 5 years ago, and what I found was by the time at that time it was different, but I'll just use your example as an illustration. By the time I pay for Hulu, by the time I pay for my internet, course, I'm going to have an internet anyway, but
Right.
for sake of argument.
Right.
By the time I pay for Sling TV or wherever it was back then,
Right.
I'm looking at $60, $70, and I'm having to go through 10 steps
Yeah.
to get to my
It's
fucking
not as
TV
easy.
show.
It's not as easy.
Because,
It's not
I
as
mean,
easy.
I've worked 2 jobs for the past 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you come home after working 2 jobs, you get you something to eat, and you got maybe an hour before you have to go to bed.
Right.
Last thing you want to do is spend 15 minutes
Setting
trying
up
to find your fucking TV show.
Setting up to find the right combination of channel and service and everything else
And
that
one
has
of
the
the
show.
things that's lost in this is back in the day when we flipped through channels.
Yeah.
Now, if you unplug, you have to make a conscious effort to go out and find the show that you're choosing to watch. There is no happenstance to where you just kind of flip through.
But you got to remember there was no on-screen guide then either. So basically, you were flipping until you saw something you recognized or wanted.
But I want to tell you what, that was some fun damn TV viewing right there. Because, you know, you'd flip through there and my ADD would just be kicked in on high, and I'd be like, that was also the era of the infomercial.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah.
And to this day, I can be held hostage by a fucking infomercial.
It can happen.
I'll sit up there and I'll have me a couple bourbons, maybe 3 bourbons in. See how I do that? I bring up-
That was great.
No, that's why I sit in this chair.
That's why he's a professional.
Right. That's
the
right.
talent.
A seasoned.
A seasoned professional at this
and
point.
I'm in the industry.
Yeah.
But I'll get an infomercial after a couple, 3 bourbons, and I'm like, I need that. I need the knife that will cut through shoe leather.
Yes.
Which no shoes have shoe leather anymore. But my God, I need a knife that can cut through it, just in case.
What I need a knife that if I just feel like cutting through an aluminum can first, then I still want to slice a tomato.
I want a tomato. I enjoy a fresh
I'm
tomato.
going to cut through an aluminum can and then think, yes, now I want a tomato. And it will still slice. It's still sharp.
That's exactly
I can
right.
still see it in my mind's eye.
And I need to wear a blue shirt when I tell the people
Yes,
about it.
that's right. I need to be Billy Mays.
That's right. Well, God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we look back and we could do a whole show on commercials.
Oh, God, yes.
You know, the Levi's commercial, you know, and you know, give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
All that sort of stuff. And
Still iconic.
yeah, right. But now I don't know that there's any commercials now. They're iconic. And honestly, I think if we had to take a survey and we would ask people, why have you moved away from, because they still offer standard cable with no DVR. If we were to ask people why they moved away from that, I would venture to say commercials. They don't want to watch commercials anymore.
No, they're terrible. And the other thing is when you realize that each hour show has 20 minutes of commercial in it, well, I can watch an hour show in 40 minutes and I'm done. I'm out. I can watch something else.
People live a busier schedule now
Yep.
than they've ever lived in the past.
Yep, that's right.
And the fact that they now have the option of only spending 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember Lloyd and I actually had this conversation. We're both huge Game of Thrones fans. And I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to Game of Thrones and the season finale with Janet and Heather last week.
Right.
But I remember Lloyd and I talking about it. I'm like, you want to come up and watch Game of Thrones? He goes, yeah. I mean, it starts at 9 o'clock, and I'll be, oh, wait a minute. That's on HBO. That means an hour show is actually an hour.
Right. Right.
Instead of watching a 30-minute show, and you only have to invest 20 minutes in it.
Right. It's like the episode of Game of Thrones is an hour and 36 minutes. It's an hour and 36 minutes of viewing. There's no breaks.
Well, part of it was midget walking a whole lot.
Well, yeah, he did spend like 20 minutes.
And we're not going to get into that now.
Yeah, no spoilers.
We're not going to do that.
No spoilers.
But I think, all right, to sum up this hour show, hour and a half show.
Yeah.
Thank you all for sticking with us.
Yes.
And if you have a hair emergency, let me just go and say, 911 Mike at Plaza Barbershop.
That's great.
Save a
That's
lot
great.
parking lot, Frankfort, Kentucky.
Yeah.
I have to do one of these at the end. That way Mike continues to listen to it all the way through.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Because now if I'm giving him 2 spots a show,
Yeah, you know.
and at some point it's going to be Mike's Barbershop is the name of the podcast.
And we remember Mike because, you know, he's been here. He's going to be here the first. He's always going to be our first sponsor.
Yes.
So I know
you
he's gonna-
always remember your first.
Yeah, always
You know what?
remember your
And
first.
He's a very gentle barber. If I can
Gentle.
tell you, because you want your first to be gentle.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, he's a very gentle, tender barber.
Right.
Again, married family guy. Janet, Heather, stay away from him.
I'm sure he explains the haircut very well before he gets
does.
into it.
He does.
He does a great job.
It's a moment.
He really does.
He does. So, if we're going to have to give a verdict of where TV was when we started, right?
Right.
And where it has evolved to, on a scale of 1 to 10, do you think it is better, worse than when it started?
Oh, definitely better. Definitely better.
On a scale of what?
I'm going to say 8. 8. Yes, you could say that some of the shows now are just trash compared to what they used to put into them. Just, there's so many shows.
Police Woman.
Yeah, there's
There's always been trash.
There's always been trash. And we didn't even speak to the thing of how the actual TVs have evolved. We're talking going from a 13-inch Zenith to a 70-inch flat screen.
We need the geeks here for that because they're going to talk about DPI.
Right.
The QRDs,
right.
And all that sort of stuff.
And we barely touched on sports. We did allude to it a little bit, but think about how attendance is down over all sporting events because you can almost have as good an experience sitting on your on your couch than being there.
If there is an idiot drunk behind me, I can tell him to leave my fucking house.
Right. That's right.
Mike, not Mike at Mike Barbershop.
No, not Mike at Mike Barbershop. He's a family man.
This is Mike T. This is Mike T.
Is this the guy with the dog that brought to your house?
No, Mike T.
Oh,
Mike.
Big Mike.
Mikey.
Mikey. Okay, Mikey.
But sometimes he gets a little mouthy, and you have to smack him upside his head. So you're saying an 8?
Yeah.
All right.
It's come a long way, babe.
I'm going to say, I don't need you to call me babe. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm going to say probably it's 1 to a 10. I don't really know, because I think part of it is people's lives have changed to where they have so much stimulus otherwise.
Right.
So many other screens that can captivate them, right? That TV is not a primary form of entertainment anymore. It is background noise. It is something that you do when you get a chance, or you may be working or visiting with somebody. TV's on in the background, right? And there may be some TV shows that you stop to watch,
right?
But honestly, I don't know that there's that many comparatively. Now the volumes are up. If you look at the ratings, people are watching more TV now than they ever have.
Right.
But there's also more people now.
Right.
Now there's more devices now.
Right.
Now people are watching TV on their phones.
And if you are an older person and you are the kind of person that only likes shows in the vein of Andy Griffith, you can still watch those and get those. If you want to tune out the new stuff, that's fine. But you have the opportunity to go back and watch those shows.
I think you're right. I mean, you can go back and watch Happy Days if you want to. You can go back and watch. I know my dad bought some Hee Haw DVDs.
Sure.
And so you have access to not just the current programming, but programming since programming has been going on.
Right.
And probably in a better version.
Yeah.
Because I notice when I watch Andy Griffith now, it's a longer show than if I watch a new sitcom.
Yes.
Because it didn't have as many commercial spots.
Right.
But so I think that's our show.
I think it's great.
On the TV.
Yeah, I think we did. We covered a wide variety of topics and came up with 2 new podcast ideas.
We did, because that's what we do. We're idea men.
Yeah, that's right.
We're idea men.